this was the first time I had ever experienced power in my life, which was, I have something that you want, and I'm going to tell you how it's going to happen. And it was the most empowering feeling I have ever felt. A lot of this experience was begging and pitching and following up and not hearing a lot, and it's just years of that. And for the first time, everyone was ready to get on board.
Hey everybody, I'm Lindsay Zarniak, and this is Things No One Tells You. This is a podcast about the behind the scenes moments that shape who we are, those things that also are really relatable and really connect us. So each week I'm going to talk with newsmakers, trailblazers in the worlds of sports, entertainment, all things, but also everyday folks, people who are talking about the real stuff that no one tends to share. Follow me at Lindsay Zarniak and be sure to subscribe, rate, and review Things No One Tells You wherever you like to listen. Hey guys, welcome to this episode of Things No One Tells You, or T-Naughty, as we like to call it. I am, simply put, I was just blown away by my guest today, who I cannot wait for you to hear from, because I knew that she had this amazing brand called Fazit, but I didn't even fathom what her story was going to be like until she shared her journey. And I have to say, it was so inspiring, and I hope that you find it inspiring too. I really think that there is something so magnetic about watching somebody carve out a lane that didn't exist before. And I really think this episode could be boiled down to things no one tells you about finding your way when you're first. When you're the first one to do something, when you're the first one to have a wild idea, or there's something that you really believe in your heart that you can and want to do, but maybe there are others that aren't really believing that you could do that right now. Anyway, that is exactly what Aliett Buttelman has done. So Aliett started her career as a model. If you know anything about modeling or paid attention during the days of 17 magazine or whatever magazine you were reading, elite models are the top of the top. And that's where she began her career. Behind the camera, Aliett shares that she was quietly absorbing everything. She was learning how to build brands, how to tell stories. That was really speaking to her, and also how to create something that would last. So today, she is the founder of Fazit, the beauty brand behind these amazing glitter freckles that went viral. I have seen these in person on girls that I've seen out at sporting events and different places, and they're amazing. And yes, Aliett found a way to end up on Taylor Swift's face at a Chiefs game. That story is epic. I love that this brand is really about celebrating what makes us unique. And of course, before we dig in, I'm going to give you some levity, because for those who follow me on social, you know that I like to share a joke of the day. So, in honor of Freckles, what did the foundation say to the concealer? Relax. I've got you covered. I loved it. I thought it was great, but I hope you're not covering your freckles. I cannot wait for you to listen to this episode. In this conversation, Aliett opens up about her scrappy early days, the pressure of building something from nothing, what she's learning now about leadership, about community, and showing up boldly. It is a masterclass, if I'm being honest, in grit, creative vision, and the kind of clarity that only comes when you're willing to bet on yourself. I'm so excited to be joined by Aliett Buttelman. And Aliett, first of all, I should mention to the people watching, listening, that you are founder of Fazit. You are an entrepreneur, a highly successful one at that. You are a model. But real quick, where are you? Where are you joining me from?
I'm calling from my apartment in New York City, but I usually split time between South Florida and New York.
Oh, cool. What part of South Florida?
West Palm Beach.
Lovely. Lovely. I used to live outside Miami. So there are so many things to talk about with you, but what out of the gate, I just would love to get your perspective on what is a thing no one tells you that has been really impactful on your journey.
No one tells you anything, and I don't think anyone can actually prepare you for a journey as a founder or an entrepreneur. It is the most isolating, lonely journey you're about to embark on.
What?
Is also one of the most rewarding experiences that someone could go through, and you really can't explain most of these feelings to anybody on the outside who's not going through it. But I really wish somebody in the early days would have pulled me aside, taught me the tips and tricks, all the things to look out for in the early days. And what I say to other entrepreneurs is, in those early days, find a mentor, find an advisor, somebody who you can really, just ask those dumb questions, or really share your vision with, who can help guide you along this process.
That's so crazy to me because a couple of different reasons. But number one, thinking about where you are now. So people that are familiar with Fazit know all about the different things that you've created, especially the glitter freckles that are all the rage, right? But beyond that, it's like the success you've had. If someone had told you, I think how difficult or challenging that journey is, it's almost like, would you have been discouraged? You know what I mean? So I think there's like the chicken and egg thing, right? A little bit.
A little bit, but for my experience, I started out as a consultant, and honestly, my co-founder was one of my first clients when she had her first skincare company. And working with different founders in tech, beauty, fashion, I saw what they were going through. It was so much heartache. It was inventory management, overbuying. It's an emotional process, and this was their baby. And from the early days, I said, I will never do this. I mean, this is grueling. And my co-founder really convinced me into taking this leap of faith with her. And I am now experiencing what all of my previous clients went through. But no, it is totally rewarding, and it's an experience like no other.
Oh my goodness. What I want to take it way back. Can you share with me a little bit about you are an elite model? And what's interesting to me right out of the gate, I was like, like I growing up, I don't know because of it was like that day and age where I feel like models, I was like 17 magazine,
Yeah.
all these things. And it was like such a, oh my God, that lifestyle must be so amazing. What was that like? Or what has that been like? How did you get into that?
Yeah. I reflecting now on being on these podcasts, it feels a little bit like therapy, like reliving like
Really?
yeah, like reliving like your early career and how you got to where you're at. And for me, now looking back, is I started modeling when I was 15 years old. I was a freshman in high school. I
Oh my
had
gosh.
just went from a really small religious private school for 10 years into a performing arts public school, and I it was just really hard for me to integrate into such a large student body. And they all went to school together previously. So it was hard to make friends, and felt like an outcast. And I was really looking for a creative outlet during that time, and wanted to start acting. And in South
Mhm.
Florida, there wasn't a ton of acting outlets. So I decided to go into modeling. I went to a few agencies. I signed a contract with actually Aliett. This was 15 years ago. And ever since then, it's kind of been a part of my life. But I was, in high school, going down to Miami 3 times a week, working full time. Started then moving around the world to New York and Paris and Australia and Berlin. And so I started working at a really young age, but also started working with adults at a young age, and really had to force myself to have the work ethic of an adult. Show up at 5 a.m. on set. And that really, I think, ignited this entrepreneurial spirit in myself of, you, as a model, you really do work for yourself, but you also are brought into all of these creative worlds of CMOs and art directors and makeup artists and hairstylists. And it takes a village to put on an advertisement. Um, but I did that for about like 10 years full time, while I was in college as well at Columbia. And then really felt that I wasn't meant to be in front of the camera, but rather behind it.
Why?
I had way too much to say as a model, and you're like last on the totem pole. You're not supposed to say anything, at least at that time.
Yeah.
This was the print age. This was before Instagram existed, so models really didn't have a voice and were expected to not have a voice. And I was so fascinated by the business behind the advertisements. So from there, I went to school, and then out of school, ended up starting my first consulting company.
Wow. And was it that like was the management and people that ran the show, was it were women in that space at that time or was it mostly men? I'm just curious.
I would say at the agency level of the women who were booking me, it was predominantly women.
Yeah.
But on set, I would say 50-50. I mean, there was a lot of men at that time. And, it wasn't a bright time, I think, for females to be working in that space. I think there was a lot of predatory behavior, and curtains were definitely shut at that time. And it's nice to see how much the industry has evolved.
Wow. So, and it's funny because I think, so there was this like little nudge inside of you that you wanted to do more. You wanted to have a voice. And when was it that you started to feel that this specific lane of entrepreneurship was what you wanted to do?
I don't think it hit me until this year, to be honest, of identifying as
What?
one. Yeah, I tell people that when I started my consulting company in college, it really came from a place of fear. I graduated from Columbia. I studied economics. All of the women around me were going into banking, investment banking.
Yeah.
And I was not interested, but also had a fear of, if I go into that space, will I get rejected? Will I not get the job? And I couldn't handle that. And it's funny with modeling, it's such a business of rejection. You go to 10 castings a day, you usually don't get one job. And maybe it was more of like ego of the intellect, but I was like, you know what? I can't fire myself. I'm going to start my own company. I have made all these contacts from the modeling world of amazing designers and brands who are looking for help in branding and social media and retail placement. And not that I had any of that experience myself. I was just like, I'm going to teach myself how to do this, and I'm going to be my own boss. And it started with that. And then, my first client ended up becoming my co-founder today. And she, during COVID, nudged me and was like, let's start something 50-50 together. Both of our visions aligned. And I was not interested at all. I was like, you know what, Nina, like I see what this does to people. Like, this is not for me. And she's like, come on, like it's COVID. We have nothing else to do. Like
What
it's a
part of it were you scared of?
I was I was scared of investing so much time, effort, and my own resources, like your own personal money. And I knew how long it takes to really build a profitable business where you can live off of your business. And I was like, I'm not willing to take that chance right now. And I think just the timing of where we were at in life, it became more of a creative outlet, and we just started working on it as kind of this little hobby project.
And so, in the hobby project at that point was, what was it specifically?
It was Fazit. We
Mhm.
were in our friend's WeWork. We came up with the name. I was living down in Florida during COVID. I came up to New York to see Nina, and we came up with the name, the color palette. We had my best friend from college start doing the graphic design, and we started making, I wouldn't say a business plan, but like a road of how to get from point A to point B. In our minds, we were going to fundraise a ton of money. At that time, we were seeing all these female founders in the beauty space, raise enormous pre-seed capital, meaning raising money before even having a product in hand. And that was our route to success. We were going to pay ourselves massive salaries, and that is exactly what did not happen. But immediately in our business, the first few months that we launched, we did start experiencing traction. And I think
Mhm.
that energy really gave us that sign, okay, there's something here. Let's keep going together.
And what was the something there? Tell me about the product and your vision for the product at that point.
Yeah, so we started with skincare patches. So
Mhm.
at the time, there were these tiny little pimple dots, and my co-founder Nina, her background is product development. She said, "There's so much we could do with a patch. We can infuse it with ingredients. It can be used in different ways. Let's set ourselves apart in the saturated skincare world and start using a different application method of applying skincare." So we were the first brand to launch the first extra large multi-shaped acne patches. So anyone who was struggling with cystic acne, we launched the first nose pore patch. So a more effective and gentle take on those old school pore
Fiore.
strips. Yes. So you're not
Right.
ripping your skin out. And quickly, I mean, we did not have any resources. We both put our savings together.
Really?
No, we put in together $13,000 to start this business, which is literally nothing. You need $1 million to make a healthy, growing beauty brand.
And by the way, when you say that, like that's actually what it is proven.
Yeah.
$1 million is
Yes.
what can get the job done. But anything, because when you say $13,000, it's like, and I thought about this, I laughed out loud because I was listening to you talk about this somewhere else, and I was like, you say that amount, and to me, it's like, oh, that's great. But The speed with which that dries up is like bananas.
I mean, we started going out of like we're not a lot of things. We're not website developers. We're not graphic
Right.
designers. And we started getting these quotes from people, and they're like, "It's going to be $10,000 to do your website." We're like, "Well, we only have 13. Like, what do we do? Like, we need to get products. Like, there's so
Right.
much that we needed at that time." But it was real, and I know I'm moving all over the place, but it was such a
That's so
great
much.
lesson of being scrappy and learning how to be lean. And I just listened to the founder of Bala Bagels, the really trendy different weights, like what do you call them, wrist weights, and
Uh-huh.
she made home equipment for working out a lot cuter. And she was saying in the early days she raised a ton of money, burned through it. Her company, was a mess. She had hired 30 people. She was in debt $3 million, and now she's like, I've realized running a lean, profitable business is what I needed to do all along. There's all of these like industry pressures of this is how you're supposed to run your business. So great early lesson for us. So the first early traction after we launched those first two products was we had no marketing budget. We could not run ads really because like we couldn't like video edit to the quality that we thought like meta ads needed. We could not afford someone to run the ads. We couldn't do the ads ourselves. So we're like, what in the world can we do to tell everybody that we just launched this brand and that we have all these innovative products that no one had seen before? And TikTok had launched. So we just started throwing up the most graphic, shocking content of people peeling off these patches and seeing this gunk coming out of their skin. I know it sounds gross, but we all
Yeah.
love watching it. And
Right.
and 30 million views, 100 million views. We just started sending free product to people with these different types of skin issues they were dealing with and started creating this digital community. And that's how I got Walmart to call me, CVS to call me, our first pieces of press. And that's how I got investors interested in even speaking with us.
Back to the part about removing the gunk, because that is fascinating to me. Because you're exactly right. Like, what did you think that that was what the response would be to that specific thing of showing the actual act of removing one of the patches? Or was that something that you learned, oh, wait a minute, this is a real thing that for whatever reason
Yeah.
we love to watch?
I mean, marketing is twofold. It's a hypothesis, and our hypothesis was, okay, I've watched Dr. Pimple Potcher on HGTV, and you love watching what yeah, it's gross, but
Yeah.
watch it. And the second was you test, and if there's a reaction, you keep replicating what you're putting out there, and that's what we started to do. And that's how we started. I think we gained like 30,000 followers, but at that time that was a lot for us.
And then no, that's amazing. And then eventually you went into the glitter freckles. How did that come to be?
Yeah. So at that time, we had ingrown hair bikini line patches, acne silicone scar patches, all of these really innovative products that were solving an issue for people at an incredibly fair price point. They all had traction, but nothing was taking off the business. We were our livelihoods. We couldn't live based on our business. We couldn't hire a team. We were
Mhm.
breaking even month to month, and something had to change. And Nina, my co-founder, is a wild product developer. I mean, she was at Dermal Patches before other people were there, and she comes to me and says, "I have this idea about people are obsessed with this patch application of like peeling off something. Let's play into that psyche more. Maybe we can do this with cosmetics." And I was like, Nina, I don't know how we go from like dealing with skin imperfections and that story to makeup. Like, I just don't see where that line is. And our advisors, our mentors weren't seeing it either. And she's like, let me just test out a few samples from the manufacturer. I've had them made already. I'm going to wear them in LA and let's just see. She would call me and be like, I'm stopped on the street. Everyone's asking me what's on my face. This is wild. And I was like, okay, send me a few. So she sends me a few. I put them on for a really nice dinner in New York, going to this place, Chet Cheese, which was like a hypey restaurant a few years ago.
Yeah.
And they sit us at this beautiful back table, like this private table. And after dinner, I come out and the maitre d' stops me and says, we wanted to improve your table because we're just so obsessed with your makeup. And I was like,
Whoa.
what? I was just like, she was right. Like, this is the weirdest thing. It became this like compliment phenomenon. So I was like, okay, Nina,
Oh
we're
my
launching
God.
this product. So last April, we launched the first ever makeup patches, and our customers and fan community call them glitter freckles.
Okay.
We aligned this with Coachella weekend. We were so excited to have stock in our warehouse. We had this amazing launch. We rebranded the whole company. We wanted this company to look and feel like Nina. And the company that we had built before, it was for this Gen Z audience that loved rainbow, and it just so wasn't our aesthetic. And I was like, if we're going to be the
Okay.
founders moving forward, I need this to feel like an extension of myself. So we rebranded. Our stock does not come into the warehouse in time for Coachella. And I'm so bummed. It's like this was our major launch strategy. So using my modeling connections, I emailed the agency. I was like, what girls are going to Coachella? Can I just send them some samples from my new brand? And they're like, sure. So we send a few friends products. They post Instagram reels, which notoriously don't go viral like TikTok does. And that first launch day, we had 10 million views on an Instagram reel that a friend had posted. We sold out of 100,000 units before we even had stock in the warehouse. And that was just our sign that we finally found product market fit with something. And the whole business changed from then.
So I was at the Indy 500 and they have a red carpet the morning of the race that they have everyone walk down. And I was walking down the red carpet and I got to the end, and it's an event that I cover each year. So there are sometimes people that are like, oh, Lindsay, because they know that I'm going to be there. And there were these two girls and they were like, hey, will you sign our sign? And I walk up to them and they had the glitter freckles. And I was like, wow, like this is a sign. And I know, like, obviously you've seen them everywhere, but I was just like, this is so cool that I'm seeing what you're doing in action, like just random by happenstance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At a race, at a car race. I thought that was the coolest thing. Um, and then like, so what you're talking about with Coachella, that was before Taylor Swift, correct? Or am
Yes. No, that was before Taylor Swift. So we launched this product, and I had made a TikTok on my personal channel that had 30 followers. And I was like, it is my goal and mission this year to get our product on Taylor Swift. It's not about just being on the most famous person or being worn by a celebrity, but there was product market fit with Taylor Swift wearing our product. She was finishing the Eras tour in Europe. Her outfits are
yes,
bedazzled, all the glitter. Our product is waterproof and long lasting and sweat proof. She
it
could
just
wear it
fit.
on stage. And back to like our scrappiness of what no one tells you in the early days. No one tells you that strategy comes from a place of not having. And because we didn't have an abundance of resources in the early days, you would go about things differently than somebody who can throw major marketing budget at something. So
Okay.
other brands, right? Maybe they could pay Taylor to wear it, or they had the resources that they know her publicist or manager. I was like, okay, our strategy is let's create FOMO for Taylor. Let's put it all around her. Let's send it to her. Her makeup artist might give it to her. Let's send it to Sabrina Carpenter's team who's opening for her. Let's send
Yes.
it to the wives and girlfriends of the chief. So she's in the box. They are red and gold glitter freckles because they're supporting their men, and maybe she wants to be a part of that and wears it. And that was what we were gonna do. We're just gonna surround Taylor with it. And then months later, I have a feeling that her makeup artist ended up putting it on her, but she ended up wearing it to Arrowhead Stadium to a Chiefs game in October.
And what was that moment like for you? And how did you find out?
I walked into my apartment at night. The game was already on. My husband was watching it, and I was going through Fazit Beauty's Instagram account. I just like clear out messages every night, and a content creator wrote to us saying, "I think Taylor's at the game right now wearing, I think, your glitter freckles." And blackout, TV's on, look up. She's doing the whole runaway strut through the tunnel. And I look at my Explore page on Instagram, and it's Perez Hilton, Dave Portnoy, Chicks in the Office, Daily Mail, New York Post. Everyone has a zoomed in photo of her face. And I look at my husband, and it's just like blackout. I start crying. He starts recording me, which was like the most it was such a weird dynamic. We were like, what was this interaction? And he knew and I both knew, and our reactions were, this is the catalyst. This is the moment. He's recording it for history, and I'm just knowing my life's about to change. And I didn't even watch the TV. I set up my office in my living room for the night. We stayed up all night. I had my brother-in-law over. I'm calling Nina. She's not answering the phone.
No.
Not answering. She was in a meditation, and I was just like, "Girl, it is time to work." And that whole night we were up of, I know how fast media cycles work, and we had to capitalize on this new momentum we were getting, and we just had to seize every opportunity in that short amount of time. And I really thought that if I fell asleep, the moment was over. And we just tried to unlock every possibility in those first 48 hours.
So what did that look like? Like what did you really think you needed to do in that span? That because that just gave me chills like the moment. You're right. It's like the moment just it can go so fast.
Yeah. We first, it was, no one knew it was our product. No one knew it was
Right.
Fazit. So I had to contact all these journalists. There was probably over 100 press outlets those first few hours that were writing about this. I mean, anything that has to do with Taylor,
But how do you even
everyone
do
wants to
that,
cover
Aliett?
it.
Like how do you know how to get to these people?
I'm
Like
like internet sleuth. I'm telling you, the scrappy days of not having anything, you figure out how to reach people, and you're on LinkedIn. I'm finding the journalists on Instagram. I'm DMing them saying
yeah,
like, you need to tag my brand, and kindly everybody did. They would re-edit their posts and
that's
tag Phase It
amazing.
as the brand. So I did that the first few hours. I wake up. I probably slept 3 hours and had lucid dreams of Taylor and Travis. And I get a call from CBS News. I don't know how they found my phone number, and they're like, "Can you come into the studio? Like, we want you to do an on-air demo. We want to cover this."
And that was literally within the next 24 hours.
This was 8 a.m. the next morning.
That's so crazy.
I mean, I was living in this dream for 3 weeks, honestly. And then an hour later, I have a producer from NBC Peacock call me and said, "Hi, we are producing a documentary called The Swift Effect. Can we come to your office and film you about how this has affected your business?" Like, one, I didn't know how it affected my business yet. Two, I was like, "Who are you? How'd you get my phone number?" And my office is my living room. I mean, you're welcome to come to my apartment. So the next day, they set up for 3 hours a whole set in my apartment, and we filmed the Swift Effect that came out over Thanksgiving, where Perez Hilton produced it and really talks about her impact on the economy and small businesses. And from there, I called a founder friend and was like, has the number one selling clean beauty brand at Sephora. And I said, "What am I missing?" She's like, "Did you hire a publicist?" I said, "Done." 10 a.m. that next morning, hired a publicist. She's like, "Okay, you need to use this to leverage any retailer you want." So we had already been in conversation with Target. CVS was about to launch a few weeks later, and the only retail partner we had was Urban Outfitters. So Urban Outfitters, I made sure they were fully stocked because the Eras tour was about to start. So they reaped the benefits of being first to carry us in stores, because all of the traffic was going into Urban Outfitters to get for last minute Eras tour. Target is like, "We're game, let's go." They launch us in a side cap, basically giving us our own display a few months later.
And was it like you no longer had to really pitch yourself? Like, was it, what
No,
was that call like or that interaction?
this was the first time I have ever experienced power in my life, which was, "I have something that you want, and I'm going to tell you how it's going to happen." And it was the most empowering feeling I have ever felt. Of a lot of this experience was begging and pitching and following up and
Mhm.
not hearing a lot, and it's just years of that. And for the first time, everyone was ready to get on board.
And how did you know how to frame what you were asking for? Did you have a mentor or someone that you had already, made contact with that told you like what to say to Target or to whomever? Does that make sense? Like in terms of what you're asking for in return.
I'm a pretty direct person, so
Yeah.
sometimes I think my directness is probably not the most eloquent, but I said, "Do you want in or not?" Because there's 5 other retailers who are in my inbox who want in, and you guys, you can either be quick to this
Love
and
it.
reap the benefits, or I'm gonna move to the next retailer. So you have a day to figure it out, and they know. I mean, that they want this exposure as well.
So fascinating. I mean, and then so you have that happen, and then like what did you see over the next few weeks? What was it like?
Every brand was reaching out about partnerships. I was also preparing to take advantage of Halloween, the Eras Tour into holiday season.
Yeah.
And those are massive months for us. The span of back to school game day into like New Year's is our big market time. So the partnerships was you're just for the first time you're getting so much opportunity thrown at you that now as a leader you have to sift through what was on my vision board before this happened. So
Oh,
going
wow.
going with the retailer that I wanted before all of this happened that aligned with us. Then it was okay, what brand partnerships actually make sense for our brand? And Elf Cosmetics reached out about doing a social collab with some of their eye shimmer palettes and our glitter freckles. So we did the social media collab post on it, and our mentor connects us with their executive team to just have an intro call with them. They they were the most unique human beings I have ever met. The way they see culture, and I feel like the rest of the world is now seeing it with the road acquisition, is like no other team I've ever worked with. Or maybe I just haven't worked with enough people, but the way they move is so impressive. And I start sharing them our vision of before Taylor Swift. This product is occasion wear makeup. It's performance makeup. It's makeup you can move in. We launched this Team Spirit collection before Taylor had worn the product of different primary colors that you can, as a woman, show up for your team. And it elevated the female fan experience. Apparel and merch had not been
Yeah.
innovated literally ever with the shrink, what do you call it? Shrink it and pink it. And we had so many female fans going to games, taking selfies, and it was a way for them to feel cute and show team spirit. And I'm sharing all of this with Elf of where the beauty brand that is bridging this gap between female fandom, female athletes, sports, and beauty. And they're like, we have chills. They're like,
Yeah.
hold on. They're like, we feel like you're in our internal meetings. This is crazy. And they show us this commercial they had just worked on with Joey King that was launching before Super Bowl. And she's painting these, war paint stripes on her face and coming to her boyfriend's house to meet the parents for the first time. And she supports a different team than
Oh, I love
his
it.
parents. And we're talking about this in real time. I think within 45 minutes, we're like, we're going to do a collaboration together. Now, mind it, I am 28 at the time. I'm talking to the executive team at Elf. Like, I mean, they are publicly traded. I mean, it was such a wild experience that people of that caliber were speaking to somebody like me and just opening this new door for us. And 2 months later, we launched a co-branded collaboration that was Spirit Stripes. So it would take on eye black and war paint.
Oh my God, I
Um,
love it.
and it was bundled with their Power Grip primer, and it was an incredible experience. But really, slowly between our team spirit launch, Taylor wearing it to her boyfriend's football game, and this Elf collab, we're really showing our customer base like we are bridging this gap, and we are the intersection of female fandom, beauty, and sports.
I am so into this, and I just want to share with you my elf experience because I not this past year, the year before, at the Indy 500, they asked me to collab, and I joined them on Twitch, and I was like, "What are they going to do at the Indy 500?" And it was something that was I just never even thought that this would be what they did. They created this like activation that was basically and by the way, there was one female in that field, right? So one female who was racing in the biggest IndyCar race in of the year. And she's a very talented driver, Catherine Legg. Um, but obviously, like anything can happen in that race, but the likelihood that she's going to win is very slim, right? However, they know that anyone has a shot, but they supported Catherine and they set up this tent that Aliett, I'm not kidding. It was like the line to the tent was like 200 yards. And it was men and women. And this tent inside was decorated like a garage, like you would walk into a motorsports garage, like NASCAR, IndyCar. It was pink and it was black and white checkered. And it was like, there was something when you looked and when you walked inside that literally like it impacted something chemically. Cause I'm like, oh my God, this is such a happy place and I don't want to leave. And they had on the walls all of these stats of female drivers that had come before, but then they also had these like pegboards where they would have wrenches in a garage or like the equipment. And instead, it was these different makeup items. And it was like they had created this fan experience. And the coolest thing about it was there was only one female, like I said, that was represented in that competition, but they completely got behind her. And we walking around like the real garages that weekend, there were so many young girls that were standing outside of Catherine's like real garage. And I struck up a conversation with this one family because I was like, "Oh, are you fans?" And this girl was like, "No, I love Elf." And I was like, "Oh
Whoa.
my God, like what they've done." And then the thing for Catherine is talking to Catherine before the race on the grid, which is what they called pit road for people that don't know. It's where the cars line up before they take off on the racetrack. And Catherine was talking about how it's like the first time that, she's in full makeup. She wears what she feels to look good. And it was honestly like my first experience covering a sporting event where the woman, it's like you knew that she could actually just compete, but also just be herself.
Mm.
And you're not trying to be one of the guys. She is one of the guys just by the virtue that she's there, but it was like she's really seen. And to me, that was the power of what they did. And additionally, they I've had meetings with them since, and the one word that they use is disruptor, and I freaking love it because I'm like, that's exactly it. Like you don't manifest change unless you're willing to get a little uncomfortable or talk about it or evolve. Like everything's got to evolve. So I love like scrolling through even your LinkedIn. I love what you put up about Pagebackers and UConn and like it seems to me that you, beyond just that, the fandom that you're talking about with the football and the Taylor and Travis, do you have a real interest in sports? Because it seems to me like you do, and like you really obviously get it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I grew up with a brother and dad that I was one put in every competitive sport and two dragged to every game of my brothers. And my dad was my dad coached every team sport there possibly was for my
I
brother and
love it.
I. So it runs deep within my family and within my competitive spirit.
Did you play yourself?
I played myself, but then I switched over to art school.
Okay,
Just as
cool.
like child rebellion of like, Dad, I can do something different.
And what
But
do you play real quick? What sport did you do before?
volleyball, lacrosse, soccer,
Awesome.
all of it.
Awesome.
My husband is a major Detroit Lions fan. So fandom like runs really deep for our family. And it was something that I think like as a young girl, one playing, it was, I don't feel cute in what I'm wearing. Like I have to go
Hmm.
to, at the time, Sports Authority, and there's nothing like I don't feel like me in these clothes. And when you don't feel like you in the equipment you're wearing, how are you supposed to perform to your best ability? That was one feeling I always had as a kid. The second was I go to my brother's games and there was no experience for women. And 50% of viewership at arenas, at stadiums, at home on TV are women. The commercials aren't for women. There's no experience for us. And looking at how I hate the term wags, but how the female supporters of their partners are showing up for games, they look impeccable. They're
Yeah.
no longer just wearing a logo on a t-shirt in the color red, but they're really pushing the boundaries of how they're showing up for fashion. Simone Biles and the US Olympics team competing last Olympics with the nails. I mean,
Yes, they
that
all had the
was that
nails.
was such an unlocking moment for me of okay, you can be the best performing athlete in the world and also show up as a woman. And that's what we're trying to unlock at Fazit. It's really feeling bold, feeling confident, feeling beautiful, showing up for your team and or competing in our makeup. And your makeup doesn't have to budge just because you are running as fast as you can, you're sweating, it's also raining while you're competing,
Mhm.
and you can still feel like your truest self.
I think it's so awesome. I know, the New York Liberty, the WNBA
Yeah.
team is a team that just redid their practice facility, and they leaned on some of their players to just talk about and give insight into what they really needed. And so I think part of what they have in there now is not only things that would make them be able to be more comfortable, say if they have a child, but also like a nail salon, a hair, like the stuff to your point. And I think, yeah, seeing the wives, I think it's awesome that they're out there rocking it and that it's like, sure, they should feel their best and look their best. And also considering, just empowerment of what they do, some of them obviously being designers themselves, but even just the support level that they give so that their boyfriends, husbands can do what they do is something that is like not even talked about enough. It's funny because I was at a basketball game with my family, and my daughter and I went to the bathroom, and my daughter has a ton of freckles, and she's biracial. Obviously her father is African American, and this woman was washing her hands when my daughter was washing her hands. And she was like, this woman was just beautiful and really young. And she's like, oh my God, your freckles are so amazing. And she was talking about how I was just using some freckles. And so I'm sure she was talking about your product,
Oh,
but it was such an interesting conversation too, because the way sometimes I internalize that is, I think one other powerful thing that you guys have created is, you know, there's a whole different level of conversation that I know I will have at some point with my daughter because she looks a lot more like me, but she has a lot of both of us. And with these, freckles, we've had a lot of friends that are like, okay, well, she'll have a lot of questions about those growing up and who knows, right? But it's, you guys have also sort of empowered that. And it's like just more of this big, everyone can be themselves, right? And it's beautiful and it's powerful. So I think that's really awesome. I also was really intrigued by how you were talking about reframing your work as a leader, like sort of on this side now of the success, and how you have, I think you shared on LinkedIn some of the like changes or adjustments that you were making. Can you share a little bit about that? Because I was like, this is also like a TED talk on how to like lead a business.
oh wow. I mean, I'm still at this early days and still learning myself, but
Wow.
it's I've never worked for somebody else before. Never had a boss.
Which is so bold and really awesome and empowering.
But also a ton of a lack of experience.
Mhm.
I don't know what a good manager looks like. I don't know what a good leader looks like because I've never worked for one. So when you're quickly scaling your company, going from you and your co-founder and, maybe an assistant to starting to scale your team, it's a lot of hard conversations. You start with somebody quickly and then you're having to backtrack of, oh, okay, I should have set up policies and employee training and correct onboarding, and
Oh,
you're
yeah.
you're dealing with new personalities and trying to figure out what drives people, what are they looking for, what do they want out of their career. And it's a really tricky place to be in. Also, some of my employees are the same age as me. So that like creates another level of I really want to be I want to be your friend because like I like you as a human and that's probably why I hired you, other than being incredibly talented in what you do. But also now I have to like balance this line of how do I create respect and authority and leadership, but at the same time I want to be the person who creates an openness for people to shine. Like I want to hire entrepreneurial spirits. I want people to hustle and think this is their baby as much as it is mine. And when you have that personality, then you're being challenged with a lot of other things. Of people want to be the founder as well. They want to act like the boss as well. So there's so many intricacies and psychological behavior of dealing with hierarchy, but at the same time, I want to come in as a leader with a feminine spirit. I don't want to bring masculine energy because that's not who we are. We want to create a place of work where I would want to work at. So that's all been really difficult.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just hard learning something like this for the first time. And I mean, I can when it was Nina and I and the two of us, when we mess up, it's just the two of us to call each other out. But now you have a whole team looking at you for guidance. And I think also the days where I'm feeling maybe a little burnout or stress or anxiety about the future, I have to remember I can't put that on my team. I can't show them I'm feeling that. I don't want them to adopt that same stress and anxiety into their work and into their spirit for that day. So I don't know. I'm
That's
still
motherhood.
learning. Yeah, it
Yeah.
sounds like motherhood. I'm not a mother, but I can imagine you have to be internalize every behavior you're showing people
Hmm.
because you don't want them to mirror that, or you do want them to mirror that. So I'm still learning. I think we're bringing on an executive coach to really take us through how to
Oh,
be,
that's cool.
yeah, the best leaders and best mentors because we don't have that experience.
Is there, I guess, if you were looking back, what would your biggest advice be for people that are wanting to embark on their own entrepreneurial journey? What would you suggest first and foremost?
I always give this advice, but I really think it's the most fundamental advice, which is to just start. I've talked to so many people who have an idea in their head and tell me they're going to be an entrepreneur and they're going to start their own company, but it never leaves their head. You need to actualize it, you need to put it on paper, you need to make that first step, or else it just lives in your head. I think two, it's to not be in isolation, make female founded founder friends. Sorry, not I'm just using female because that was my experience. But find founder friends. Find people who have
Find
started a
female founder
business.
friends.
Yes. And start creating that community of people you can go to and ask questions. But also, your friend circles are not going to understand this new chapter you're going through. So really finding other people who are experiencing the same feelings you
Did
are.
you experience that? Were there
Oh yeah. Yeah.
really?
Oh yeah. My friends thought I didn't have a job for the last 10 years. I don't like they didn't.
Really?
Oh
And did that?
yeah. I
Oh,
didn't
wow.
care. I loved what I did so much. I woke up the
Right.
happiest person in the world. I think what became hard for me as my friends started climbing the corporate ladder and started getting bonuses and raises and could buy a house. And I was not anywhere near that.
Yeah.
But because I put a lot of that time in, I'm now, seeing kind of the gates open for myself 10 years later. But I think even now in the time of reaching success, my friends will never understand what I'm currently going through of I turn down social occasions or vacations or trips because this is what I need to focus on at that moment. And they don't understand that I can't disconnect from work the way maybe others can disconnect from work at this point right now while we're still building.
Yeah. I think it's interesting how much we put on. I talk about this with a lot of other people too, just like oh, what are you doing? And when you're not able to like really verbalize something super concrete, sometimes that just feels so wildly
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
Or it was
You're
like
like,
they would ask and they'd be like, "Oh my god, tell me what's going on." And there would be some quarters where it's like literally nothing is going on. Like I have nothing to report back. There's nothing exciting happening, and
I'm
it,
hoping it's
I'm
percolating.
hoping.
Yeah.
But no, I think community is incredibly important. And then I think knowing the realities of what you're about to sign up for is if you think you're going to make money in the first year of your business, you're crazy. So either have savings, keep your day job for as long as possible. I wish I would have done that. I just like went full in of I'm just going to
Mhm.
live off of savings until it runs out. And lucky timing was on my side. But yeah, it's you have to have a real stomach for this, and if you're not in love and obsessed with what you're working on, then either that's not the route for you. Maybe there's a different business idea that you have that you should go explore, but this is the most all-consuming thing you will ever sign up for, minus having a child.
Where did you come up with the name Fazit?
Phase it. People always think there's something in there with zit, but it's twofold. Phase it for us is I think of beauty as phases of you really change what you're buying from your teenage years into your young adult years into like starting to develop more mature skin. Um, and the second one is facing it. For us, if it was either skin blemishes or if it's being bold with your makeup choices, it's being comfortable with you and who you are and how you're showing up into the world and just like facing a problem, just face forward. And I think that really kind of goes back to our DNA currently, which is being bold. Elf, I'm going to take your word as like being a disruptor, and really redefining culture. is what's really important to us. And going back to this women in sports conversation is, and why I love Elf so much is being somewhere first. That's innovation. That's a
Yes,
disruptor.
that's so funny. Yes,
And
yes.
we had this hypothesis, and we had created a product for, bridging this gap with being a female athlete or fan before everyone wanted to put their name on the WNBA.
Right.
Which
Yes.
I'm so happy they are, because they need this attention and they need the spotlight, and it's so well deserved. But yeah.
Is there a sport that you feel is untapped that you would love to explore, like a goal that you have?
Oh, that's so interesting. Yeah, I think community sports are really being hit upon right now. I
Mhm.
mean, there's a ton of women's sports that have not gotten the attention they need. I mean, I think right now we're really seeing a light on women's soccer and women's
Yes.
basketball. But I think also being an athlete, not in a community sport, being like a soul athlete. I think right now Formula One and race car driving is like it's
It's a
having a really
moment.
hot. It's a moment. It's also a very sexy sport. But I know, I think looking towards the Olympics in LA this year, or sorry, not this year, in the next few years, it's really going to be interesting for us to team up with independent athletes themselves and really give them a product and a community for them, since, they are not a part of a team sport themselves.
Track and field.
Yeah.
Like I love, yeah.
Surfing. I mean, that's like something that's on my mind right
Oh,
now with
wow.
our products being waterproof, for a way for
Oh,
them to show up.
yes, and a couple of the swimmers at the last Olympics shared that they use, you probably know this, but they use men's just for men hair dye,
Yes.
like on their eyebrows, on their lashes, just so that when they are out of the pool, it'll. So yes, my eyes were open to that whole thing, and I do think like I think the moment in women's sports is just so it's so popping right now with yes, it's like there is a hunger for it and that's amazing. I guess I do want to ask you before we wrap up like what do you make of all of this? Like what do you make of your journey in discovering these things that no one tells you? Like what has it taught you about our culture or what you just view in life that is maybe a lesson that you can share with people because this is very unique to what you've experienced.
I think from our experience, and not to not to really just solely focus on the female experience of being a founder. That's the only experience that I can speak from.
Yeah.
But that did play a huge role in how I got here. Is every door is pretty much closed on you. You don't get the same level of respect. You don't get the same opportunities. You don't get the same network. It's really difficult to break through, but you keep pushing. You open your own doors. You don't wait for somebody to give you the opportunity, literally ever, because it will never come for you. So I think just having a mission, having a purpose, and really not stopping until you start feeling like you're getting somewhere. And it takes a lot of time, but that's how we start redefining and changing the narratives. And I think such a great segue into women's sports right now is like these athletes have continued to train and compete and be their best performing selves despite having insanely low salaries, having no
Yeah.
sponsors, having no spotlight. And look, they have put one foot in front of the other and the building blocks on top of each other, and look where they're at now. Like their time is coming. And I bring that back to other female entrepreneurs is there is such a white space in parts of our lives. For me, it was having this performance makeup of being a fan or being an athlete as a woman. So take those ideas in these spaces that no one has that experience with. Men will never understand these white spaces that we know so well. Create something out of that, and there will be a community to follow, because as women we also know what the white space is, and we want a product for it, or we want a service for it. So no, I hope my advice is helpful to your
I think it's
community.
great. And I think that, like sometimes I hear from people that are on different sides of big careers or are struggling to find their purpose. Like I think purpose for all of us is so important, right? But I do think that there's a lot of truth in what you just said with the purpose part of it, which is like, even if you're sort of unclear, it's as simple as like just being still and like seeing what lights you up a little bit and then following that. And in my career, it's like the advice that people that I have found that is the best oftentimes is something I've also heard you say, which is ask questions. Like,
Mhm.
there haven't always been so many women to mentors, because when I was coming up in the business, there I can like I can count them on my hand, the women that I think are amazing mentors that I would consider my mentors. But I think you have to really seek that out, like you're saying, and not be afraid to ask. And that doesn't mean it has to only be women too, but just ask questions. Ask questions about the job that you might think you want. Or I know one thing that's really resonated with me is like, if there's something out there that for whatever reason, I'm like, I really want to do that.
Mhm.
What's stopping me from reaching out to the person that has that job and being like, can I just talk? Can I just grab coffee? Can you just, it's kind of like what
Yeah.
you've said that you've done to get things that you didn't understand along the way. Um,
I
so I
was
really think it's value in that, but also, and to your point, it's like there are so many doors that I've had that have been closed, and some that you know the reason, and some you're like,
Mhm.
what? And I think it's just okay, you move on and just know that those doors lead to the open one that is the right one, but not giving up. So
No, and
deep
not
thoughts
being
with Lindsay and Aliett.
no, and not living, not being fearful. And I lived out of so much fear and embarrassment to put myself out there, of the fear of getting rejected and rewriting that for yourself. I was filming a podcast in person in New York, and there was this production assistant who hit me up on Instagram DMs right afterwards, sent me this long message of everything she could possibly do for me to make my life easier and what she could bring to my team, and asked to take me to coffee right by my apartment, making it
Oh my God.
very, very easy for me to say yes. And my time is very limited these days. And
Yeah.
I had just had this gut feeling about her. I went to coffee with her. She literally sold me on herself in 30 minutes. I offered
Oh
her a
my God.
job by the time I left coffee.
Oh my God.
I was like, there is something about you that I don't know if we have a role, but like, I can't lose you. And she's now running up our sports partnerships.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so she's 22, by the way, and didn't graduate from college, and like the most incredibly impressive young woman. It's put yourself out there. I mean, just ask for what. Literally ask. Send that
Yeah.
DM. Send that cold email. Like, what are you gonna? There's nothing to lose.
No, and also, like, I mean, when I think back sometimes to some things that I suggested, whether it be like with an employer or whatever, and I'm like, thank God I had naivete on my side, right? Like, no, I think, oh, that's so cool. I love that. And I love sometimes you just have to go with that gut feeling. What are three things, Aliette, before we go, that no one knows about you?
Oh boy, um, I I am a total introvert. Um,
Really?
Completely. It takes everything out of me to socialize and leave the house. Um, I take a 45-minute bath every single day,
Love
which
same
is
time each day or
no, I'm not strict on the time. I mean, if I have the time, and that's just my like meditative time to just reflect and recap the day and have peace in my house.
amazing.
Third one, oh wow. Oh, I think as a little girl, my dream was to be a motocross athlete, like professional athlete.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
There's still time.
There,
Um,
yeah, I don't think so.
Wait, okay. Do you have a favorite beauty trend right now? Is there something that you're seeing or that you're
Oh,
loving that we can learn from?
oh, I love this one. Okay, I'm really about right now not just going to Ulta and Sephora to do my brand discovery, really finding like little local beauty places or maybe concept stores in a neighborhood you live in, and seeing the indie brands and emerging brands they're bringing in and giving them the space to shine. In my experience, a lot of those brands have very high quality ingredients and are really made with a lot of love and care and research. So give those small brands a chance that you're not necessarily seeing on TikTok.
Okay. I love it. Thank you so much. Is there anything else that you wanted to add or share that we didn't get to?
No, just for your followers, you can find Fazit at Fazit Beauty across all social channels. And I share a lot of my founder journey on my personal TikTok, which is Aliett Butts.
Love it. Aliett, thank you so much. I hope our paths cross in person soon. Maybe we can
Likewise.
see each other at a future sporting event.
I love that. Thanks, Lindsay.
Awesome. Thanks. I want to be like Aliett Buttelman when I grow up because I just think her vision and her courage to just go for it is so awesome. And I so appreciate her sharing that in this conversation because honestly, like she talks about journaling to sort of keep track since she didn't have a blueprint. Basically, this really was a masterclass. I think it's so cool. And I love the fact that I never considered when she talked about Taylor Swift and understanding that that was happening and that she wore those freckles to the game. I never even fathomed the amount of work she would then have to go into doing, right? Like so often you think, oh, this is the thing. But I feel like one common thread in talking to people that have achieved something is oftentimes they get the thing, but then you've either got to do all this other really hard work to maintain it or to keep it going or, to move on to the next. But anyway, I just thought when I was having that conversation with her and she was describing sitting in the room with the laptops, she really took me inside and I was like, whoa, like that is the hustle. I also want to share that I think it's really awesome what Aliett has created with her co-founder with Fazit because besides being something that can also be part of a skincare routine, these glitter freckles are really awesome. And as the mom of someone, my 8-year-old daughter has amazing freckles. I really appreciate this because I've thought a lot about this recently because it seems like everywhere we go, someone will comment on how awesome her freckles are. And they're amazing. But I also am just going to tell and be honest in this space that as the mother of a biracial daughter, I have been told how, later on, those freckles might not be so cool to her and that it becomes much more of a topic of why do I look different? How, and who's to say where that really comes up in someone's life? Maybe it doesn't, but I have found myself thinking about it every time someone comments on her freckles because my immediate knee jerk reaction is to add to that conversation and be like, I know, aren't they amazing? And they are. My mom heart doesn't ever want to see that genuine, liking her own self and what makes her unique go away. So I think Fazit is just one way that we as a society are also celebrating something that not everybody has, but that everybody could have. And sort of the togetherness of community. Anyway, I also want to remind you that, of course, be sure to tune in every Thursday to Things No One Tells You for new podcast episodes. And if you're loving the show, which I hope you are, please take a minute to give us feedback. Let me know, but also subscribe, rate, and review Things No One Tells You. And let us know what topics you want to hear. What is your thing no one tells you that you would love for us to chat about? All right, I'm Lindsay. Thanks so much for listening and watching. We'll see you next week. Thanks so much for joining me. I can't wait to see you back here next week. Please don't forget, follow and subscribe to Things No One Tells You. And of course, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, don't forget to leave a 5-star review because that's really what helps people get more listeners. We would love to grow this community. We are so grateful that you're a part of it. See you next time.